So I'm going to demonstrate a very versatile technique called stippling. Now, I know that that term might be a little bit like, what on earth are you talking about? But stippling is basically used very often in trees, bushes, and in the centers of flowers. It's often used. It's basically just a textured brush stroke that gives you the idea of leaves without you having to actually paint individual leaves. It also, like for centers of flowers, it helps you get that like nice textured seedy look that you see in the middle of like daisies and sunflowers and that kind of thing. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. A couple of tools that are handy for this are a large round brush or a small round brush. You probably will hear me mention that a couple times throughout these videos. They are pretty useful tools. So if you're looking to add some supplies to your like library of art tools, these are good ones to have for a lot of different things. So I've got a paint plate here that has all the colors that I need. I've got a purple, I've got two different shades of blue, and some black to make my blue just a little bit darker. Now the white is just to mix with my purple because I'm going to use that for my highlights. Now this is a very cool colored painting. It's got lots of blues and purples in it, but if you're doing like a daytime scene, like a spring scene, you can just use different shades of green and maybe some yellow in place of the blues that I have. So this works for whatever color palette you happen to be working with. So I'm going to use my large round brush for most of this. And the key with stippling is that you want to work in layers. But stippling is basically just doing little dots like this, tapping your brush to make little, basically textured dots, and it will just make it look like foliage without having to paint all those leaves. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit of black in with this blue. Now if you're curious about what colors I'm using, this is phthalo blue, the dark blue, and then this is cobalt blue. This is just a violet, but you can use like Diox violet if you see that, and then just plain white. Titanium white is a good white to have. So I'm just gonna rinse my brush off real quick, and then we'll just jump right into it. You want to dry off your brush, and I'm going to start with my dark blue. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to start by doing little dots. Don't be too careful with it, if that makes sense. Like if you go outside your lines, that's actually fine. But I'm just going to take and alternate between my two shades of blue. Like so. And just go back and forth. And you don't necessarily have to use the black. If you don't want to, you can just use the plain phthalo blue. It just depends on how dark you want your shadows to be. But you can see my base layer. I'm just alternating between my cobalt blue and my dark blue. My dark phthalo blue. Now, I think the main thing that I get concerns about when people start doing stippling for the first time for foliage is that it doesn't look enough like leaves. And that usually happens, those questions get asked usually before the trees are put in. You can see we don't have any trees and it kind of looks like a blob right now. But once you get trees in, it looks a whole lot more like leaves. So just kind of wait and be patient with the process. Just kind of follow the technique, and then once you add those trees in place, it really looks a whole lot more finished and complete. And I think you probably have noticed by now, but I have not been washing my brush. I'm just kind of going back and forth between my colors and letting them blend as I go. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm going to show you how to add those highlights that I was talking about. This I'm going to rinse my brush for and dry my brush. I'm going to take and mix just a little tiny bit of white into my purple, just so it stands out a little bit more. And then I'm just going to add some purple stipples throughout the blue. Now, if you feel like you want it to be even brighter, just mix a little bit more white into it to make it stand out more. And so just add it randomly. I tend to like to add them like on the tops of little fluffy bits, so that way it ends up looking like the light is hitting it, but it really doesn't matter if you follow that or so much or just add it randomly. Okay, so I'm going to show you the other side real quick. So I'm going to start at the top on this one. I'm going to start with my cobalt. And then go to my phthalo. You can see I'm kind of leaving a rough edge along right here, like you want a few little gappies of your background color. If at any point you like run out of paint or something, just take a minute to remix it and then go for it again. But it's super relaxing, super easy. You don't want to have to spend all that time painting individual leaves. All right, so we're about ready for our purple. So again, rinse your brush. And so your highlight color, if you're doing a different kind of landscape, so like I said, if you want to do greens, you may want to mix your white with like yellow and green to get a highlight color. We're using purple since we're doing a snowy scene. But green, yellow, and white would be a really good choice for like a normal daytime spring scene. Okay, so there you have it. This is basically how you do all your stippling. I'm going to fill in the trees and just let you see what it looks like when the trees are in place. So there you have it with all of the trees in place. And you can kind of see how now they look, these little areas here look less like blobs and a whole lot more like leaves. So for our sunflower, I have a couple different colors here. I have a brown. This particular brown is called burnt sienna, and then I have black. And again, you can mix and match the colors however you need to in order to get the color of the center of the flower you're trying to do. I've seen, you know, doing like orange and brown before. I've seen doing like white and yellow before if your center is like a yellow. I've seen doing yellow, orange, and white before. So there's just like, it just depends on what flower you're trying to do. So just take a look at your reference. For sunflowers, you're going to do brown and black. So what you're going to do is you're going to stipple between the two colors. You can really start with the brown or you can start with the black. It doesn't matter. But through the middle here, there's going to be basically a section that is brown kind of in the middle here, and I'm going to alternate between that and black. Now on the edge I'm going to take and do kind of a texture. I don't want it to be super smooth. I want it to overlap those petals like so. And then I'm going to go back to my brown. You can see I'm taking my brown and overlapping into the black some so that they blend. If you at any point feel like the black is overpowering your brown too much, you can wash your brush out. So yeah, like you can just take and rinse, dry your brush off, and then go back and add some more brown to it. And then again, I'm going to add some more black in the middle. So now we have more, we have like that brown highlight. Like so. I'm going to go back and add a little more brown because I want it to overlap just a little bit more. So it's really, really easy. It's such a simple technique, very versatile, and such a handy thing to know how to do for so many different situations.